Okay, just a word or two about where system dynamics has got to. The underlying science has basically been solid now for arguably 50 years. There's nothing fundamentally moved forward in the science of underlying system dynamics. But I think where we lag behind is in the presentation and communication of what we do. We think about the way in which discrete event simulations or agent-based simulations and models are presented. They are very visual, they're very live, you can watch what's going on in front of your eyes. I think I would argue that system dynamics is behind the pace on that. We very often present models where you can't actually see any data at all, or you see as a diagram, and you're supposed to kind of intuitively understand what the diagram means about how the real world behaves. So I've really been focusing my attention on improving that communication, particularly to business audiences, to analysts and consultants, so that they can communicate better with management. I should add that I'm not the only one in the field trying to do that. If you go to forio.com, F-O-R-I-O, you'll see that they are doing really great stuff on visualizing system dynamics models, not just of business applications, but lots of others. If you look at some of the latest software in the field, software like Stellar Architect, they put a high premium on making the models very accessible so you can see what's going on. And I will argue that this is absolutely key. In fact, it feels to me as though this has been the fundamental barrier preventing the uptake of this way of looking at how organisations work for 20 to 30 years. We've got great tools and we've got great software, but if they are impenetrable, we're not going to get anywhere. So the language I use is not aimed at you guys. It's aimed at the people who we are trying to help. Okay, so when I use the phrase living business models is a big deal out there in the corporate world. There's something called a business model canvas, which has been very highly presented and promoted around the business world. You go to the consulting companies' websites and look up business models, you'll see all kinds of stuff with that phrase on it. But the thing they lack is that they don't actually work in the sense that they don't do anything. They just kind of sit there as frameworks. I would describe them more as business statutes rather than business models. So what we can do with system dynamics and with agent-based and discrete event approaches is we can make the thing actually work. We can make something that looks like the enterprise, that looks like the department, that looks like the organisation actually performing. Oh, before I start, you can get these slides. If you go to that link, there are a lot of these links in the presentation. sdl.re/ followed by various things, LBM for Living Business Models, hyphen OR59. You can get these slides. They're PowerPoints. It's not a PDF. You can give this presentation if you want to, and feel free to contact us about any of this. So I'm going to quickly go through this agenda. What are the underlying principles? Look quickly inside a model, just explain why these models are so reliable. So not for your benefit, but so you can explain it to other people. And in the process, I'll go through quite a lot of real world examples and end up by telling you how you can find out more about how this all works. So what is the bottom line here? Things have changed. We might have been around for 50 years, but in the last few years, things have changed a lot in terms of how we can actually deliver system dynamics-based models of organisations and the challenges they face. Now, I'm increasingly confident now in saying that it is now easier, faster, and more reliable to produce working quantified enterprise models this way than anything you could ever get close to with spreadsheet-based approaches. The spreadsheet is still the tool of choice in business analysis, enterprise analysis. We can blitz what you can do with a spreadsheet here. I'll give some examples in a minute. And this gets us to the point where every leader and executive should understand these things and be able to use them. And every analyst and consultant should know how to build them. This should not be optional now. If you're a business analyst, your education and training is incomplete if you can't do this. So
what are the principles that make this work? Well, the method, and the same would be true of DES and agent-based approaches too. They also do this. But very explicitly what System Dynamics does is it captures this phenomenon of accumulating stocks, accumulating assets. Now, the accounting profession, right, they were doing stocks and flows when the Babylonians were counting the grain coming into the store and the grain going out of the store, right? The accounting profession's known this. The same is true of customers, staff, capacity, product range, and some intangible factors. That's basically the set. Any organisation trying to serve some purpose has got customers or some equivalent, they've got staff, they've got some range of products or services that they deliver, and they've got some form of capacity for doing it. And all four of those observe those same rules. Right? There are no exceptions to that. We capture the interdependencies between them. You know, I can grow this stock, I can grow customers at this rate because I've got this stock of salespeople and I've got that stock of product range and product performance. We capture the interdependencies, and that inevitably gives rise to feedback. The System Dynamics field has been a little bit obsessed with feedback, and they think that that's where you start. But if you don't do the other two things first, you won't properly communicate the feedback effects. We capture thresholds. Things are okay, things are okay, things are okay, until the point where they're not okay anymore. Right? And the same with good things happening. We invest and nothing happens. We invest and nothing happens. We invest and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, something does happen because you've crossed the threshold. The product has reached a point where it is now functionally acceptable to people. The price has fallen to a level at which people can now afford it. We deal with thresholds. And we deal with intangibles. Furthermore, we can go beyond the boundaries of the organisation and incorporate external interactions as well. So this is an engineering view of how the real world works. This is how engineers understand how things actually function. And an enterprise is a design system, so surely we should be using engineering principles to describe it. Okay, here's the first simple example. This is a very small local IT support company providing IT support services to SMEs. Okay, this is their client base. We're actually at the middle of this chart. This is a time chart. We're about the middle here. Our client base has been growing. It's starting to fall. We're just seeing some client losses going out on the right-hand side here. We fear it's going to get worse. We're going to stop winning clients, and we're going to lose many of the clients that we won. So the business has signed up more clients. Service quality is getting bad. So we've got pressure on staff here. We've got problems experienced by this organisation's clients. And this is being made worse because we've got staff leaving us down here. This is our stock of staff. This is how many staff we've had. Staff numbers are starting to go down. We're worried about that. We're losing people. And we've got to do something to fix this. Otherwise our staff losses will continue. And all of that flows through to the financials. This is what's happening to the organisation's revenue. This is its staff costs, and this is its operating profit going up, and now it's coming down again. So this is a piece of work one of my executive students did for his organisation. The CEO had to fix this. How did he fix it? Well, counterintuitively, the way he fixed it was he went to some of these clients and he said, look, we're not doing a very good job for you. I recommend that we transfer your support needs to this other organisation, a competitor, because they will serve you better. So you'll see a little blip there with extra clients being lost. That's the CEO passing off clients that they can't handle to their competitor. A little bit of a blip of extra staff being hired, and that fixed the service quality and allowed the enterprise to recover. In the short term, we've got profits falling here. The red line is either the history up to today or what we think the future will do if we don't do anything. That's what the red line is. The blue line is what happens when we actually run the sensitivities and test policies on this. So profit actually falls below where it would otherwise have been if we hadn't lost those clients, but it stabilises and we're in a position to move forward. So you can go and run this model. There's the link, sdl.re/IT support. It'll run on any browser. It'll run on your tablet. I think you can even run it on a phone. I wouldn't recommend it, but it will run. So this is an example. And what are we doing here? We're making explicit those accumulating things. We're making explicit the causal relationships. This thing is going up because this thing is going up, and it's coming down because that thing is coming down, and it's going down at that rate over that time because this is coming down at that rate over that time. So you're following the causal relationships all the way around these models. If you actually download the slides and click on this exhibit, there's actually a demonstration that shows you how the model runs, and it takes you through a couple of experiments. Okay, the slide file is actually quite big because it's got the recording embedded inside it. Now, that was quite quick, not difficult to do. Everything on that diagram is something you could see and measure in the real world. The CEO understood it, all these people understood it, no problem here. But that's not where we're starting from. Where we're starting from is where this guy is. This guy is Alan Analyst. He's got to produce a sales and profit forecast for a new technology product. And how will he do that? Well, he'll reach for his spreadsheet, and he'll find it hard work, he'll find it boring, and he made mistakes. Research by the professor at the University of Hawaii and various others has identified something like an 85% error rate in corporate spreadsheets. 85% of corporate spreadsheets contain errors that are significant enough to make their principal conclusions wrong. And Alan is no different. So here is the spreadsheet that he's built for the product launch. We're thinking something like a Kindle. Think that kind of device. It's that kind of thing. This company has done lots of this before. They understand how these markets work. They understand how to market these things into those markets. They don't always succeed. So, sometimes they have a bummer and it doesn't work. Right? So this is his spreadsheet for how that works. And you can go and download that spreadsheet, SDLWE Tech 2 spreadsheet. It's got stuff about the profitability over here. We've got stuff about sales here, first-time sales, repeat sales. There's stuff about marketing, something about the people who buy it, and we've got a word-of-mouth effect making sales of this thing grow. So first thing he's wondering is how the heck he did this last time, because you can't see how anything works here, and where in this was the mistake. You can't find it. And analysts are typically working with spreadsheets certainly tens of times bigger than this, often hundreds of times bigger than this. Absolutely enormous things. How on earth can you find errors in those things? This is Alan's living business model. It's his initial model. It does exactly what the spreadsheet did. Every value in this model is exactly the same as the value I just showed you on the spreadsheet. What's the difference here? The difference is that we're very explicit about this core mechanism, which is converting potential customers to active customers. The red line is what they would like to see happen. The blue line says what happens if the relationships in this model follow what they should do. Up over on the left, the green area is how marketing is driving a win rate of first-time buyers, and you can see that's falling away as we use up the potential. At the upper right, we've got the impact of word of mouth. These people say, hey, this device is absolutely fantastic. They tell their friends and their friends buy it too. On the right here, we're simply adding up sales from first-time buyers, which goes up and down, and then we're adding repeat sales to the same owners. There's our total sales. At the bottom, we've got operating costs and marketing to get operating profit. And we're seeing the real world values in red, the calculated values on everything that's important. So you can get this model at Tech 2C. And this is already a little bit difficult for the analyst to find their way around in a spreadsheet. So imagine how much more difficult it would be if we were trying to deal with those threshold effects, like the affordability of this product. I'm selling it at $150. Is that an affordable price, or does it need to come down to $120? We've got to put affordability into this. We've got to put competition into this. Somebody else is launching a similar product at the same time. We've got to put cost reduction in here. The more of this thing I make, the lower the unit costs will become.
okay, because of experience curve effects. Experience curve is an extremely rock solid structure and set of relationships. But by the time you've put all of that together, you just couldn't do it in a spreadsheet. Theoretically, you could, but in practical terms, you just couldn't. You get completely lost. So that's this model, Tech2C. If you go to Tech2 product, it includes all of those other effects. So you can see how you can get to more complex business models with that. And now we've got to kind of explain to management what the heck it is they're looking at here, but it's not difficult. What we're saying to them is, you have to grow the stock of owners, and this is the rate at which we think that might be possible. If you do that, then, and they repurchase at that rate there, then this is what will happen to repeat sales. And here's our total sales down at the bottom. And we would need to add first-time buyer sales as well to see if we hit our target. The thing is, this is not technically complicated or mysterious. If you look at a system dynamics model, every item is simply a column in the spreadsheet. It's got the name in the top cell and all of the period values in the cells running down below. These linking arrows are simply cell references. This, total sales, equals first-time sales plus repeat sales. And we use simple language formula. This formula is not $32 multiplied by CX dollar worksheet 35 cell X. It's current owners multiplied by repurchase rate. We use simple language formulae for this. Turns out, when you do this a lot across an awful lot of organizations, where you get to is a generic business system structure. Operating cash flow comes from revenue minus cost. Revenue comes from price multiplied by sales. Sales come from customers multiplied by their purchase rate. We win customers if our price is attractive and we do marketing. And if we've got a product range that they want to buy, they like the products. We have to employ staff and capacity to make this possible, which drives costs and contributes to our operating cash flow result. The complication all arises in the middle here when all these things depend upon each other. If we get that operating cash flow, we can pay interest to our banks, we can pay tax to the government, and we can pay investors their dividends. But before we do that, we probably have to reinvest some of that cash in these things. Should we add products? Should we discontinue products? Should we hire staff? Should we increase our capacity? Should we retire capacity? So the yellow things here are the decisions that we take. And some version of this is adaptable to pretty much any enterprise. If you're not working in the corporate sector, if you're working in public services or non-profit organizations of other kinds, exactly the same principles apply. Right? The only difference is that your primary motivation is not to deliver cash flow to investors. It'll be some other purpose. But you still have to be financially viable. Right? If you're working, I did a study for British Transport Police about 18 months ago. For them, customers are actually the criminals that generate crime. Right? So generate a crime rate. The product range is the range of services, the range of activities that police do to try to reduce that amount of crime. They have staff, they have capacity to deal with it. It's a very, very similar structure. So we get these generic business architectures. It can get more complex. This is a project for a marine engineering business that we did. You'll find a full explanation of the case at BWT case, and the model itself is at BWTS. So what's going on here? Up there we've got R&D to generate the new equipment items that they're trying to sell. Below that, they're selling this equipment through agents all around the world. Those agents give them access to customers, people who operate ships and need this equipment installed in those ships. Down at the bottom, when they sell the equipment, there is a project initiated, which they have to build the equipment, go and install it in the vessels. They've got engineers down here, so we've got engineers. Those two things down there are engineers. This is a 3-year business plan for the business. Sales effort up there, which is allocated between agents and winning customers and making sales to those customers.
And down here we've got income statement and cash flow, and this thing up here is just a control panel. Now, I said at the start, this is now easier, faster and more reliable than anything you could do with a spreadsheet. We built this model with the CEO in two 2-hour Skype calls over 2 days. Between those 2 Skype calls, he went away and got a bit of the data that we didn't have readily to hand during those Skype calls. I've built models with another CEO for a Portuguese IoT business. Again, we built that model in 2 days with all the data, and it's not difficult anymore. Right? It's not difficult. System dynamics used to be tough. It used to be hard in process terms, and the technology made it difficult. So, why is it easier, faster, and more reliable? Because you can see how everything is changing. It's all there in front of you. Just like the DES and agent-based people have been doing for 20 years, our models now can show you everything changing in front of your eyes on the visualization of the structure itself. That's the key thing. You're seeing the model of the business with all of the data changing on that same model. It's all joined up. You can see why everything is changing at the rate it is because of what it is that it depends upon. Errors show up instantly. Forget to divide by 100 or something and the whole thing goes crazy from a particular location in the model. You almost can't make mistakes with this because the model always shows you what's going wrong. And because we're trying to match the real world, we put simulated results alongside real results. And again, as soon as the blue line doesn't match the red line, you know there's a problem. Either there's a problem of the logic, or there's a problem in your formulae, or something. Now, we can go through 3 stages with this. And this is I think this is the most exciting point we've now got to, with a couple of new ventures in particular. You can bench test a new business or a new challenge or issue before it happens. If you know that a competitive threat's coming towards you, you can model it before it happens. You can populate it with what you think will happen based on previous episodes of the same thing. At step 2, you can then use that to seek support, seek investment, seek resources, and start putting early evidence, early data in the model. Put the data in the model week by week as you go. And this is the exciting point. We've now got to the point where you can use this to actually manage the business. So each week that goes by, you look at what the latest data tells you, you compare it with what the simulation tells you should have happened, you adjust your understanding of how the model works, how the business works, and use it to move forward. So this is an example of exactly that. This is a new venture. It's an advisory service for people who have home improvement projects done. You want a loft conversion or you want a new kitchen, this is the kind of thing that this business helps you do, because you don't buy this kind of thing very often. This is their desired future. Will it work at all? Can it make money? How can we raise finance? The CEO built this. I didn't build this at all. The CEO built this himself. He built it in his office at home before he even went and hired anybody to work on it with him. This is what we fear might happen. We don't get the project. We burn up all the cash that we raised. We go cash negative, and we have to shut business. What happened? So the CEO modelled the business before he launched it, how the system should work, with check its realism, check all the sensitivities. After launch, continually updated the model with real data. And here's the crucial thing. He took it to investors and said, here is my business prospectus, and here is my working quantified model of how the whole darn thing should work, and what is likely to happen to the money you give me. And we're talking serious money here. He raised £3 million to fund this business. And he's raised more money since. And now what he does is every Friday he has a stand-up meeting with his team. They look at the model, they look at the latest data for everything in the model. How many projects have we got? How many clients have we got? How many leads have we got? How many website hits have we got? How many contractors are working for us? What's happening to our cash? How many projects are ahead of time, behind time, and so on. And they use it to adjust all of their decisions. We'll adjust our hiring. We know that we're going to need another 10 contractors in 3 months' time. So you now get out and start hiring those contractors. There's actually a recording of the CEO talking about this at this link here, OPUN Talk, OPUN Talk. So that's an interview with the CEO. There you go. And there's more on new venture cases. I'm out of time, so I'm going to have to stop. There is a little bit more in the slides on extensions to the core principles and a couple of other examples on competition cases and slightly more complex examples. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you.